It took me a little while to get to Master 1 this season, and a big part of that was that a lot of my climb, I was using this deck, Bistio Dragon Maid. Now, is there a reason to play this deck over normal Dragon Link besides for
The card art is absolutely mommy.
no, there's no reason. This is standard. If you want to play a dragon deck, I would recommend just to play Bistio Dragon Link and forget the waifus for a sec. I would only really suggest you play this if you don't really have all the URs for Dragon Link yet, so this is a placeholder since you need to buy a Dragon Maid structure deck to play Dragon Link anyways to get the spheres and the red eyes. But I was really incredibly underwhelmed by playing this, which, you know, it's not a surprise. It's Dragon Maids. This deck came out like 2 years ago, or like this deck was borderline playable on the release of Master Duel, which was over a year and a half ago. So, you know, I'm not really surprised that it's not up to par. How this deck works is, instead of a Dragon Link deck where you end on a bunch of boss monsters on the field that provide interaction and negates, you're putting all your monsters into essentially just a hieratic seal of Heavenly Spheres, and then backed up with however amount of in-engine back row you have. Basically, Dragon Maid Tidying, Branded Beast, and Regained. Ideal board is literally just seals plus all three of these spell traps. So you have a bounce that gets you another monster as either a follow-up or a Bistio to tribute off of Beast. Beast is a pop, Tidying is a bounce and a follow-up, and Regain is a really good advantage engine. So the point is, you have like a 3 points of interaction at most usually, plus you probably won't die since you have a lot of floating monsters, and you run max copies of Bistio, so that you should live until the next turn. And if you live, you have follow-up in the form of Dragon Maid Tidying in the grave. You can special summon a Dragon Maid on the next turn. You have seals, which if you didn't have Magnum already, you would have Magnum for a Surge, or you could get another Surge off Dragon Maid monsters, and Regain will draw you like 2 cards alongside of that, and reuse your Bistio monsters. So if you can make it to turn 3 going first, it's actually like do stuff to your opponent. Like you'll probably win the game, and you'll probably kill them by that turn. The problem with this deck is, so number one, you would think that if this is a format where Bistios are good, that this deck would be good, right? Because you gotta run the max number of Bistios in Dragon Maid specifically, because the Bistios are the only thing separating this deck from what it was literally a year and a half ago when it was just pure Dragon Maids. So if you don't draw the Bistios, like, you're just playing a 2020 deck in a 2023 meta. And the Bistios are good against tier and like branded, right? So those are your best matchups because your engine cards are actually good disruption as well. The problem is that if Bistios are popular, then that means other decks are running them too because they're good, and Bistios really screw up your plays as well, since this deck doesn't have as many extenders as a normal dragon deck. So oftentimes it's gonna really hamper your board. And even if you can extend, your end board is a 0 attack monster. So even if they Bistio you and you can do your plays, I mean, what, you're summoning a sphere into a monster that can already run over and pressure the spheres. So it's like you're not even ending on an interruption at that point. It's really rough when you get Bistioed, which is why you just notice the name of the deck, Chaos Angel, will be really big. big for the deck once it releases, because Chaos Angel is something you can make with just a chamber or any Bestial, or you can make it with a House Dragon Maid that's floating from a shell, plus like a black metal, and that lets you clear, summon a monster with actual attack points easier, which can clear opposing Bestials so that they can't just run over your sphere automatically, so that you can use it for, you know, something useful. The second problem this deck has, aside from getting cooked by opposing Bestials, is going second against decks where Bestials are not good against. Is your options are really limited. Obviously, against the decks where Bestials are good, like against like Tier or Branded or most light dark decks, you're actually pretty decent. You actually have pretty decent plays going second, just because you probably run more Bestials than your opponent does, because I don't think many decks are running the full suite of Bestials, so you're favored against those decks. Like Tier is, for example, unironically maybe one of the easier matchups in the meta. But say if you're playing something like against like Sprite or God forbid Emancipator, Block Dragon Turbo, these 8 going second cards, these are useless. Which means that means the rest of the non-engine you have to deal with them are Maxi and Ash. Ash will never stop a common deck by itself, and Maxi never resolves, because yeah, that's just how Master Duel is. So very frequently, the majority of their games going second against decks that Bestials are not good against revolve around you drawing and resolving Super Poly or Bust, essentially. Because again, the deck's main plays involves going into a 0-attack monster, so if you're going second, that doesn't really do anything, that doesn't really apply much pressure. And your attack points kind of cap out at 2500 if you're just going by the Bestials. So the only other in-engine play you have to apply pressure going second is to hard make Dragon Maid Shell into a board to try to attack over something and negate with trade with one of their interactions. And Shell is very vulnerable, because in order to make this, you have to resolve a Dragon Maid effect, and you have to have a body, and you have to have the body still on board in order, you know, to use it as fusion material. Because this needs to fuse a Dragon Maid monster as well, so they can do something as little as like remove the monster. Even if you search this, you're kind of, you know, you're kind of not able to summon the Shell onto their board. So against Sprite, right, it's, if they do their combo, you can really only rely on Super Poly, which is why another reason for running Prosperity is because Prosperity can at least, going second, it can reveal Super Poly off the top, so it gives you, it's like a 4th copy of Super Poly that you can try to access to have a chance to play. But it's like, this is like a real problem with the deck, and again, this is another reason why we want Chaos Angel, because Chaos Angel it has I believe as much attack as Shell, so it has actually a high amount of attack to attack over anything, and it trades with interactions when you make it, since it banishes a card on summon. To go over the deck list, Maxi tax. Okay, get that out of the way. Running 3 black metal, 3 power, 3 chamber, and the red eyes to go with the black metal. Maxing out on 9 normal summons. These are the only normal summons that are 1 card, 2 dragons on monsters on the field, so basically 1 card spheres. We're not running Saferd or Chaos Base or any of that stuff, because we're not. If you're playing that stuff, you should just play regular Dragon Link. You shouldn't try to force the Dragon Maid side into that. This deck doesn't have enough space to run all the Chaos stuff, and it doesn't have the stuff it doesn't have enough monsters you can put back to gain value off Chaos Space either. And this deck really needs cards in hand. It's really not a combo deck, it's really just a mid-range deck, so you don't want to be pitching cards for no reason. So we just want you have to see one of these 9 normal summons in order to really start playing, because you need these to feed monsters, dark monsters in your grave for some of your Bestials as well. and max out on Bestials, max out on Lubellion. You need to see these so that you're not, so that you're not playing pure Dragon Maids, because you don't want to be doing that in this economy. The lore part is just the level 8 Dragon Maid to run to pair with Chamber and Powers. To get the tag effect in battle that happens like once every 3 duels, but it's just another extra dump target because you're going to be summoning these over a lot over the course of the duel with stuff like your extenders like tidying and hospitality. So it's nice to have an extra target to dump that's actually gives you value. And this is also just a Veiler on your turn. It has card text. It's not great, but just being able to, at least it is somewhat of a card that you can use going second, which makes it better than the other big dragon options. And the one hospitality, this is just the thing you search off Chamber, the special it again to give you 2 dragon bodies on the field. You don't want to run more because you're running a lower dragon maid count, and you only really want to search this once, and you don't want to draw it obviously without dragon maid because that's really bad. Same with changeover, you just need 1. You can reuse this, bounce back a dragon maid monster, add this back from your grave to your hand. The prosperity, because this deck we really need to see ideal hands. You want to see a Bestial and you want to see a normal summon, and this deck doesn't rely on the X deck too much. Your banishes are usually going to be your 3rd super poly target, which is Starving Venom, these 2, which you make like maybe one every 10 games, and probably as your Zeus package and a Tum, because a Tum's not this is again just a card that you go into one every 10 games. It's really probably don't even need this, and one of the link ones. So those are your 6 banishes for prosperity. Ravine and Boot Sector. So if you haven't noticed, there's no Rockets in this main deck. Why am I running Boot Sector? Because I need a free discard off Ravine. That it sounds really bad, I know, to run a brick just to run as a discard. At 1, people will still negate Striker Dragon for some reason and waste a hand trap on this, which is like sometimes you just get a free thank you for using a hand trap on a card that was not going to be useful for me anyways. But again, because you need Ravine to be able to dump. If you don't have access to your best Bestials, you want to dump Sarnier or you want to dump Lubellion, and then Sarnier can either dump Lubellion if you don't have it, or dump a Regain so that you can get Regain at the end phase. So worst case, if you don't have Sarnier or Lubellion access, Dragon Ravine can get you the missing piece. Super Poly, as stated, you need this for going second. The triple tiding, this is one of the reasons you should for playing the Dragon Maid engine at all, because it's a really pretty cracked card. It's a bounce for any card on the field or in the grave, and then after using it serves as an extender on the next turn, 2-in-1, and of course the Branded Beast. Extra deck, super poly target, super poly target, super poly target. 1 Shao, 2 House Dragon Maid. You don't really need to dedicate space anymore, because Shao, when it negates something, it just goes back into the extra deck, so to summon out a house, and then you can summon it again. So 1 Shao and 2 house already gives you 2 uses of Shao, and if they somehow kill Shao before it can negate something, you can. A lot of people don't know this, but you can revive Shao with Chamber Dragon Maid in battle phase, because Chamber isn't restricted to level 8 Dragon Maid monsters. It says level 7 or higher, which is exactly what Shao is, so it catches some people off guard. A Tum is if you have 2 Bestials and for some reason you don't have, let's say, a Dragon Maid monster, or you want to get access to Red MD, you can summon Black Metal from the deck and stuff like that. But honestly, anytime you can make this, you probably didn't need to make this in the first place, so this is a prosperity target. Zeus, same thing as like a prosperity target, since you can only make this with a Tum, and you can't even use the Tum's effect the turn you want to make Zeus, because the Tum prevents you from attacking with it the turn you use its effect. Guard Dragon Pisty and Striker Dragon, these are 2 Link 1s. In some hands, you need a second Link 1 during your combo. If you say you lead with, say you have Black Metal plus a chamber, you need to put the first one into Striker, and then after you get Red MD, summon out the chamber or the Harbor from your hand. Then you want to retain the red MD on the field to summon the Bellion with later in the turn. You have to turn the Dragon Maid that you summon into a second Link 1 so that you can revive it with the extender that you search with it. Double Spheres, Romulus for the Dragon Ravine if you don't have the Bestials. And this is for when you open a normal summon plus 2 Bestials, you can end on Spheres plus IP. Although a lot of time you don't, that's not even the correct play, because you're probably better off just going to Romulus first and dumping the missing Bestial piece instead of going to IP. So again, prosperity targets. And I'll highlight a bit of how this deck plays in the summoned replays. Okay, so this is a game where we go first. We try to do our standard play right. Chamber Dragon Maid, add Hospitality, go into Striker Dragon, add the Boot Sector, then activate Hospitality, and then we get Max Seed. So at this point, I don't really want to continue. I can either make a Spheres right now and Spheres pass, but since we already drew the Chamber Dragon Maid, or the Dragon Maid changeover, we can actually just go directly into Dragon Maid Shell, since making a Spheres is very vulnerable to, say, a Bestial, or very vulnerable to Called by the Grave, whereas at least Shell gives me a higher chance to be able to survive until the next turn. And we set Super Poly. Standby phase Shell will try to special summon Chamber, which at the Max C, I'll negate the Max C because I plan to special summon this turn with Super Poly and Bestial in my hand. So it goes back, House comes out, get the Chamber from the grave, and which we're just going to meet with an Ash. You know, fun, getting hit by double Max C Ash in basically one turn. And then our opponent's on tier, which at least since they're on tier, even though they have a Guido plus Kelbeck, plus a tier name that I'm gonna use the Baldrake on, hit their Sharon. Of course they're gonna mill 10, which is really unfortunate. I heckin' love Ishizu cards. And dog, this is, for some house, they milled a total of 1 tier name in 10 mills. So, unfortunately they milled a Crime as well, so the Crime will get them back. The Sharon that I banished, and then the Rhino Heart will trigger, because now they have a thing to pitch for Rhino Heart, and they're gonna go into Garua for some reason. I don't know why they went to Garua. Dump Sulliak will get him a Surge, and then Rhino Heart will dump the remaining tier name that they haven't used, which is gonna be Merly. Check that. They dumped Happiness for some reason. Probably thinking that it was gonna be the add off of Sulliak. So yeah, just the standard Master Duel tier player stuff. They lost a fusion name for no reason. They go into Bauusa, which is actually would be a smart play, because Baldrake, the effect to tribute a monster to banish an extract monster on summon targets, and can't target an attack position Babuska. So they're actually trying to go into battle phase and attack into me for Zeus. Unfortunately, this is the one of the few lines in tier that lose with Super Poly, which, because I'm fusing my own monster, I'm not fusing their monsters, so I get to summon the Starving Venom in attack mode, and now they have nothing to attack into the Babuska, which means they can't Zeus. yeah, you can Havness me, but unless you hit exactly a Merly, you're not gonna be able to fuse on your turn. And they had a Merly in hand, which is gonna continue to mill. When then they can go into Sprint, which will finally get them the Merly that they were supposed to send like 5 minutes ago. Then for some reason never did. And this will let them go into a Dragostapelia. Then Dragostapelia to negate my House Dragon Maid. I don't know why they're doing this. It's going to Dark, and then Dark will just get Baldraked. And then they're gonna preemptively fire off Caldo to get rid of all 3 Lubellions that they milled. They milled 3 Lubellions for me, by the way. Which means that since they expended their Shuffler on my Lubellions, I now have a target engraved for Dragon Maid Tidings still without a Shuffler. They're gonna use Starting Venom, target the Dragostapelia, so they're forced to negate it. Then bring out the Chamber Dragon Maid. Chamber is gonna get ashed one more time. I guess I'm just never resolving the Dragon Maid part of my deck this duel. But since we already have the changeover, you can just simply add the changeover by bouncing the Dragon Maid back to their hand, and we can make Shell again, go into battle, clear their board, and make end on Sphere's Shell. And yeah, that's probably enough. It wasn't going to be game. I know this deck struggles OTKing, but based on the way our tier opponent played, I think it would have been good enough. Well, second game. This is a classic hand for this deck. You don't open a normal summon, you just have dead Bystials in hand and a bunch of hand traps. Nice. By the way, shout out to Master Duel, forcing me to run the Max C package and the anti-Max C package so I can play this game. Thank you very much. Our opponent's on tier again, and I'm just gonna Max C and pray that it resolves. And because it does, we have a chance. We're gonna trigger Havness, to which we're gonna banish Havness. And tier players always do this. They always shuffle away the target for a Bystial because they don't want to get Bystialed. But they're just gonna have to deal with this Bystial on the next turn if you negate it with Medora. So like, usually you don't want to be doing that as a tier player. Anyways, we're gonna Call by the Caliber because I don't want to deal with that. I already got milled 10 cards last game. I don't want to mill another 5 cards off the Kelbeck. And they get the Sulliak from the Heartbeat, which lets them add the Rhino Heart, and then they're gonna Rhino Heart, which lets me Ash their Rhino Heart at the very least. Force them to go into Redoer if they want to fuse one more time. And trigger the Sharon that way. Finally get to go into Kit Kalos, where I get another draw. I don't know why they're continuing. They really should have searched Crime or something. Like, you're under Max C. You're not gonna kill me because I'm a deck that, because you saw I was on Bystials. So all this is just giving me extra cards for some reason. And they're gonna mill 8, feel great. Trigger Merly, which is gonna get eaten by a Druid's Worm. Oh, big shock! And I drew into a Bystial off of Max C. And they're gonna set 3. And draw phase, we're gonna Super Poly away the Druid's Worm and their Merly into Starting Venom. And then Druid's Worm is gonna target the Redoer to get off the field. And their Merly is just gonna get Bystialed by the Baldrake that they let us keep from last turn because they Mudored our Baldrake target. And for some reason they're gonna slip their own Super Poly right now. So yeah, your field? No, our field. We're gonna end with a Dragostapelia after all of that. And are gonna Baldrake their Merly. The Druid's Worm does nothing, and the Starting Venom went to the grave. I'm gonna activate Lubellion. I'm just gonna get ashed again. Oh, thanks. And now we're gonna sack the Baldrake for Lubellion. Just get it negated and wall up. So at least they can't attack over the Lubellion. And we do have another Maxi, so they want to commit. They're gonna normal summon. I don't know why the hell they did that. So now they go into Dark to try and revive one of my Bystials. Revive Druid's Worm. Don't revive Druid's Worm, by the way. If you use Dark, revive any other Bystial, because the minute Druid's Worm goes to the grave, I can just send whatever you summon whatever you make with it, because the Druid Worm got sent to my grave. And we're gonna maxi the Dark Summon. They're gonna go into sprint effect. By the way, you wanna count how many Murrays are left in our deck? Because we kind of Beast Shield both of them. And yeah, they're gonna realize that they don't have anything to send off the sprint and concede. So yeah, that's an example of this deck having a tier matchup literally because this deck runs Beast Shields. And even if you don't draw the Dragon Maid part of your deck. Right, so this is a hand where we don't draw a Beast Shield monster. So unfortunately, this is going to look a little weird. So a Black Metal is going to get us a Red Eyes. Red Eyes is going to summon the Parlor from hand. Parlor is going to dump Tidying. Going to Romulus. Romulus will add Dragon Ravine. Activate the Ravine. Dump the Boot Sector launch we search for free. Dump the Chamber. Then the Tidying will survive the Chamber that we just dumped to search a Tidying. And then we're going to Spheres. And set Tidying. So at the very least we end on Spheres plus Tidying. Now I could have dumped Sarnier for Lubellion, and then tribute the Red MD to summon Lubellion out, and then get a Branded Beast. However, Branded Beast would be completely dead, because we don't control a Beast Shield yet, so you have to rely on Hieratic Seals resolving in order to get a Beast Shield monster from my deck, which makes it very vulnerable to Ash and very vulnerable to Lullaby. I generally don't like doing that. At least, the very least, Tidying is an interruption that doesn't rely on Spheres resolving, since you can, worst case scenario, Tidying target Spheres, and then tribute Spheres, chain to it, so you can get 2 bounces out of that without playing the Called By. And our opponents on, well, we're not gonna tell from this because we're gonna Ash that, and then they're gonna normal summon Ariana into Lady Lab. By the way, I would not recommend ashing Pot of Prosperity in this format, because you're either playing against something like Flu or you're playing against Lab, and in both cases there are better cards to ash. I just saw my opponent took like 5 minutes to decide their Prosperity managers, so I thought that they might have been on Trap Tricks. In which case, it's okay to ash Trap. It's at least better to ash the Prosperity against Trap Tricks than say versus Lab or Flu. But generally, don't. It's not a good idea to ash Prosperity in this meta anymore. They're gonna enter battle phase. We're gonna trigger the seals. I have to get the Lady Lab off the field so I can use Tidying. Because if I use Tidying with Lady Lab still on the field, they get a free trap for no reason. So we're gonna summon this Parlor from our deck. We're gonna activate Clue Clock. And then we're gonna dump Lower Par, and then Lower Par is gonna summon itself so my monster's not gonna run over. We're gonna use Welcome Lab, go into Lovely Lab, and then we're gonna Tidying back the Lab back to their hand. And you're gonna set 2. Our turn. Activate Changeover, immediately go into the Shell to put up a Omni Negate on the field to contest learn their back row, and then we're gonna continue playing with Tidying to revive the Chamber Dragon Maid, to get the Hospitality to hand, activate Lubellion, get Sarnier, special Sarnier, target your clock, sack off Sarnier for Lubellion, dump Regained, add Banner Beast to the field, special summon Parlor with Hospitality, Changeover, get it back, going to House Dragon Maid, and this is game on board through their 1 monster. Which is basically the point I was making in the deck profile, is that if you get to turn 3, you have like 5 separate like free ways to special summon, because all your Dragon Maid, your Tidying becomes an extender on the following turn, and then your Dragon Maid monsters search more extenders and more ways to fuse. So you can see how it can get a bit overwhelming. Alright, this time we're going second versus Lab. If you couldn't tell by card sleeves. And here's the weakness of Lab. Lab is like how weak people think Branded is against Ash. That's what Lab is. as well, except Lab is also a trap deck. So you just... So not only do you commit extra cards to setting your path with your furniture, but then when it gets ashed, it's like even more devastating because you don't have more plays afterwards. So Lubellion into Magnuma. Magnuma banished their furniture out of there. Trigger Magnuma, special summon Lubellion. Lubellion go add Beast, normal summon Chamber to get Hospitality. Go into Striker Dragon. And then Hospitality back the Chamber, which, fun fact, because Hospitality includes an effect, Foolish Burial, you can ash this, even if you're never intending on using the effect Dump. So, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. And the best we can do is enter battle phase, to which we get Dogmatic Punishment for the Busty Phallus. Busty Phallus, send Garura for them to draw a card. And then we have the Magnuma Search for Sarnier, and then we have Super Poly, Titan plus Beast. So this is still 3 interruptions plus the Ash Blossom, which you know how good Ash is against Lab, right? I mean, they clearly they knew, because they were not going to resolve one of their. They were going to have another turn where they were not going to resolve a Lab trap. So, and then, you know, this deck works. We have the Hiding in Grave, so we can just kill them next turn. So yeah, if the next pack truly does have Chaos Angel in it, look out for this deck, and probably 50 other light or dark based decks that card will buff. And I'll probably revisit this deck again too. But you know, if you're one of the Dragon Maid players, one of the OG Dragon Maid players, and you want to interested in playing a deck from a 4-year-old deck in this current meta, see how it fares. Just hope you don't play against too many sprites. Just play against Tier, Branded, and Lab, and you should do fine with this, a build like this.